All right, so guys, a big question in the 12-year-old Charlie Bothuell is, was he abused by his father, by his stepmother, and you guys got into a heated
we got into a bigger conversation. And to be
spanking.
fair, that's why I wanted you in here for this. To be fair, there probably is some threshold that's harmless. There probably is. We just don't know what that is. And I'll let you answer a second. But my understanding is in terms of behavior, there's always better ways to shape behavior.
Absolutely.
So those are the two things, right?
Yeah, and there's always exceptions to every research, every study, every data always has outliers.
Yeah.
So when people use, a personal example or a personal antidote, that's great for them, but that doesn't invalidate all of the research that's been done.
Right. I think somebody ought to really, it's got to be worked out a little more carefully what we even mean by spanking too. I generally, when I was, in my world when I deal with drug addicts, they always have physical abuse or sexual abuse or abandonment 100% of the time.
And do they call it abuse or do they call it, here comes Anna.
Oh no, they say I was disciplined. They never
okay, so that's actually really interesting that you said that because of the very fact that the father, when questioned by the police, he agreed. Yes, I have disciplined my child. So
people get very confused.
with a PVC pipe. So that's the degree is they won't call it a beating or abusiveness. They call it discipline. But in my mind, hitting your child with a PVC pipe, that's crazy abuse.
When you take histories from patients about these issues, you literally have to drill down because they're so defended about it and they identify so strongly with the abuser as somebody doing it out of love and needing to do it. It was good for them. It says so in the Bible. So you literally have to go. They'll always start with no one ever physical abuse. Then I'll go, were you ever spanked? Well, of course, I was disciplined. Okay. Well, so you're spanked a lot? Yeah. Did anybody ever pick up an object? What kind of object did they pick up? And you have to go because they will blush it off as no, never any physical abuse of any kind. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I've had exact same experience. They're always very defensive of it. It's almost like it makes them feel like they're damaged in some way if they use the word abuse, and so they will, and they'll even, like you said, they'll defend the parent who.
Deeply defend. I needed it. It made me good. Well, you're a drug addict. You have severe emotional dysregulation.
Are we all just presuming again?
No. We're talking about
abuse?
no.
Okay,
no.
I
was like, I need to jump in on this.
I'm like, let me jump in.
No, we're talking about spanking. How about the brain? Thank
So
you.
I wanted to talk about the brain. We talked about the Wall Street guy. I love the brain when Dr. Drew pulls out the brain. But isn't it true that, okay, maybe it's not a physical thing, but the chemical makeup of the brain somehow changes when you grow up in affluence? I read an article about that.
You got to get it for me. I'll have to evaluate it.
Okay. I thought that was true.
Your brain chemistry. I mean, what does that mean? What does that mean?
Right. It changes when you grow up in.
It changes. It changes if you grow up in Hollywood versus Pasadena. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know what they mean by that.
Okay. Yeah.
There may be. You know what? There is a certain amount of one thing that I do see a lot of.
He loves the brain.
Is people being their arousal systems are sort of burned out. They need higher and higher levels of thrill and arousal. So, and those
professional athletes too, right? Once you get
a lot of stuff like that. That's usually addicts. Do you agree? Usually sort of in the addict zone, or they were abused and that burned out the system. But anyway, so it's worthy conversation. I feel very guilty about Jennifer because I love Jennifer. I think I'm really upset.
I think it was an interesting dialogue.
It
and
was.
I looked on Twitter, and you know what? It's divided. People understand where she's coming from, and of course, I don't think she's saying that she condones hitting with a PVC pipe. That's not what she's saying.
Right, not at all.
But she's saying to some degree that's how she has disciplined her children.
Well, she picked up an object, and I will take issue with that.
Yeah, I didn't grow up that way.
Well, and then what I saw a lot on Twitter was, well, people are successful if they're successful, but they may have addictions and they may have emotional issues. They may have, and more importantly, they have interpersonal issues.
And at the end of the day, why argue with research? You guys are saying this.
Well, it's always good to argue with research, but you better get very, very specific.
Okay.
And I think the research can be criticized on. Really, is there a dividing line? Is there a moment that we say, all right, I'm going to spank you, whatever? But there's a better way. You don't want to do it. That's up to you.
Excuse me. Emily, our senior producer, makes a very, very good point.
Yeah.
That she was not spanked and she has many issues.
That was our executive producer. That was Bert Dubrow, our executive producer.
That's another important point. That's actually a really important point. That to blame it all on that is ridiculous. But as far as this case goes, what's your sense of it?
Which case?
The PVC, the brothel.
Well, I feel like there was some blood on the pipe. They haven't tested the blood. There was
What's the
some
kid doing
blood
down in the basement for 11
days?
days?
My theory is, I think, and again, this is just speculation, that he hid. either he hid because he's a bad kid, he has behavior problems, or he's maybe hiding from abuse. I don't see any evidence of abuse yet.
So let's say he's a bad kid. Like, Shagun took real issue with that because there is such a thing as sociopathy. He has talked to or psychopathy. Maybe he's a bad kid and the parents just were like at their wits' end and went to extremes to try to control him, and they couldn't.
Or maybe he went there on his own. He ran away one other time before that we know of.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just being a bad kid. I mean, he's what? How old is he?
Yeah, but
12?
Yeah,
He's
almost
12?
without exception, when kids run away, it's because they're being abused.
I kind of
in some
feel like that
fashion.
he ran away because of the abuse. He came back, and then the parents were enjoying their 15 minutes of fame, and they hid him in the basement. That's what I think.
Wow. That's a good theory.
Last question. Amy is pregnant. You gonna discipline your child?
Not through physical punishment,
Right.
and I'll try
What
to
will you
use
do?
positive shaping and positive reinforcement.
It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
From what I've heard, I think it's probably the more difficult route of parenting, and I
Right.
think that sometimes spanking can be the lazy route.
So,
All right. Well, we got 2 questions tonight. I want to know if people agree with Sam's new theory. Number 1, did they enjoy their 15 minutes of fame? And join the conversation on abuse versus discipline. We want to know what you think.